been a long time since we've made one of these videos, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually talking about trade rumors in the middle of the playoffs. Why? Because I feel like it, okay? And even if this is completely out there, unlikely as all hell, I'm still going to talk about it because I've seen some Jets fans out there talking about it, and you know I love a good trade rumor, especially one involving a defenseman. So today we're going to be talking about the breaking new rumors that have come out around the Columbus Blue Jackets and their defender, Seth Jones, about how he has informed the team he will not be re-signing after his contract ends in 2021-2022, and he will be pursuing unrestricted free agency, leading most likely to a trade between him before the next start of the next season from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, can the Jets get him? I know that's why you clicked the video. The thumbnail sucked you in. Can the Jets get him? All right, I'm going to be completely honest right now. One, yes. Theoretically, the Jets can totally get him because Seth Jones actually doesn't even make that much cap when you look at what he brings as an offensive guy and just a two-way dude in general. And I know Seth Jones' defensive stats, his advanced stats, aren't the greatest at times, but honestly, this year, no one was good advanced stats-wise on Columbus, so take it with a grain of salt. I also love what he brings offensively. So enough of that being said, getting to the guy. He makes right now $5.4 million for next season, and that's a very manageable cap hit when you look at how much cap the Jets are going to be able to have just off of the two expiring contracts alone. Paul Stastny and Matthew Prairie is going to generate over $10.62125. $10,600,025. Or I don't know how to fucking say it right now. I'm too tired right now. It's been too late making all these videos, getting hyped for the series. The point is, you've got a lot of cap. Over $10 million. $10.5 million over that. It's just two guys. The only players you have to give extensions out to and keep are Neil Pionk, who is currently making $3 million, who you're going to need to probably give to $1.5 million to $2 million raise, and I think that would be pretty fair for him. So if you have all that money, you just need to give him. Andrew Kopp can walk or go. It doesn't really matter, especially if you don't pay him what he's going to be wanting, which is probably $4.5 million, maybe a little bit more than that. You have a ton of cap, and the Jets need defense. Not to mention the fact that Derek Forbort is actually expiring as well, which is $1 million. You get that. And that helps the team out a little bit too as well. Plus, you get $2 million coming off the books in Jordy Ben, $3 million as well just off of mediocre defensemen who you can replace. So there's a lot of flexibility with this team that we're going to be looking at and exploring more when the offseason comes and we get an idea of what the team will be able to do. But as it stands right now, if the Jets really want to, if Cheveldayoff looked at Seth Jones and said, that's the guy we need, he could go out and get him. One, the Jets still have their first-round pick. Two, the Jets do have some expendable prospects right now that are looking like they might get passed over because other guys are passing them. Example, Christian Vesalainen, a guy who looks like he's only getting better when he's been giving NHL minutes, a guy who has proven to play at very good levels at the AHL and at the Liga levels as well recently. So you have him, a first-round pick a few years ago, a guy who's only looking like he can be a more interesting piece. You have a first-round pick this year. You've got guys like Sami Niku. You've got other pieces down there like Logan Stanley, who you might not be able to keep because of expansion. Jets do have expendable players, and the main reason why I say that is because Cole Perfetti is looking like he's going to make this team next year, and honestly, in my opinion, he could probably fight for a top 6 spot if Paul Stastny doesn't re-sign, or if you need to have some flexibility in there and you're not really sure who's coming in there, because I think Cole Perfetti could jump in there. He might not be the most amazing player we've ever seen, but I think he will be damn pretty well good. He's looked great at every level we've seen this year. He killed it on the Moose, so I'm getting very excited for Cole Perfetti. But that also leads me to Ville Heinola. You know Ville Heinola will be making this team next year, so you have all this flexibility, all these prospects potentially moving up that are passing other guys in your system because they're very good. Maybe bringing in a guy like Jones on a rental wouldn't be such a bad deal. Now, you might be thinking, oh, rental's not good. But if you can get him in the offseason, get him for a full year, and maybe extend him to a little bit of a deal, you do have the cap, you can't afford it. It might be something you look at. Because the only wild card in the Jets' future when it comes to cap is Cole Perfetti and Ville Heinola once their contracts come out of their entry levels. Those are the only real next big paydays you're going to have to deal with. And the only other real option after that is Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's currently making $5 million, who will be needing a pay increase after next season, who will be a restricted free agent. So that's the only guy you're going to need to give a raise to. But since, again, he's only already making $5 million, unless Pierre-Luc Dubois has an amazing season and he shows he's a $10 million man out of nowhere, you're most likely going to be only giving him maybe a $6 to $7 million raise depending on his play next year. Again, money you do have because of how much you're getting off of these older expiring contracts. Not to mention the fact that Brian Little is most likely never going to play again, so that money stays off the books. The Jets do have options, and theoretically they do have the pieces to be able to put in place and potentially make a trade for Seth Jones. Now, where I think it becomes very hypothetical and it doesn't look like a really real possibility is this one key element that I've glanced over so far, and that is the expansion draft coming out. Right now, as it stands right now, since Adam Lowry signed that extension with us, we would have to expose one of our best bottom 6 guys this year, Mason Appleton. Personally, I don't want to see Mason Appleton go. I think he's got a lot more to his game. I think he can be a better Andrew Kopp, and I think keeping him is going to be a very crucial part of the team's identity in their bottom six for the next couple of years. I think he's a must-have to keep for this window we're in. I think he's a very good ready-now piece who can play almost anywhere in the lineup at times, depending on injuries, and I think he's like very must-keep and a very important part of that bottom six. So keeping him is important, and if the Jets need to potentially make a deal where they have to keep Mason Appleton, similar to what they did with Vegas and them selecting Chris Thorburn and switching around that first-round pick, where the Jets would have had Nick Suzuki, but they had to step back and get Christian Vesalainen because they had to swap picks to keep Toby Enstrom and other guys protected, so that they wouldn't pick them. And and when you look at everything, it worked out pretty well that year. After the Jets went to the Western Conference Final, Toby Enstrom was a big part of that defensive core, so it made sense to keep it. And yeah, you could argue Nick Suzuki would be great right now, but I think you would almost all rather have that run to the Western Conference Final than maybe have Nick Suzuki now when we have Cole Perfetti. So what it comes down to is, yes, I think theoretically the Jets could go out and make a trade to get Seth Jones. It makes sense in my head. You have the pieces to do so. You have the cap. The only real thing that it comes down to is, one, can you re-sign him? Two, does he actually even want to come here, which is a big, big reason, and would he be happy here? And which could be because Pierre-Luc Dubois is here, former teammates. There are different elements, and the other third big reason I think it comes down to is re-signing. If you know he can re-sign and you can trade for him and then sign him to an extension, maybe even if it's only 5 years, that's very, very, very good. Obviously, you want to keep these guys. You want to be able to sign guys long-term, and I think keeping Seth Jones around at 26 years old, maybe on a 5-year deal, could be really good to have for this run, especially if you only have to give up maybe a first-round pick and a guy like Christian Vesalainen. I think that's expendable. Maybe throw in Sami Niku. There are different ways the Jets could make a package for Seth Jones that makes sense. I'm very interested to see whether or not they're going to pursue with him, but I think the big thing that's going to come down to is whether other teams are making their offers, and if there are better prospects involved than the guys the Jets have to offer. The Jets do have very interesting prospects with a ton of potential, but they don't have any big ticket name prospects that they're going to move. You know, Cole Perfetti is untouchable, and same with Ville Heinola. The only other guy you might say with a lot of star potential could be Mikael Burden. Maybe he's got starter potential in his career, but other than that, I don't think the Jets want to really move on from Mikael Burden anyway. They want to keep him in the pipeline and see what happens with him. So I don't know if the Jets make this trade. It's all hypothetical. It's all way too early, but as it stands right now, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there and say that theoretically, if the Jets wanted to, and they wanted Seth Jones, they could go out and bring him in. They have the cap, they have the means of assets, and they could totally bring him in. The big question is re-signing him. Does he want to stay here? And basically whether or not, really is a good fit. Personally, I think he would bring a lot to our top four. I really like his offensive side of the game. I think it would be really good to bring in a guy like that. Personally, I like his age too for the timeline at 26 years old. So in my opinion, I think he should bring in. Other fans are going to have different opinions though. So let me know your thoughts on Seth Jones in the comment section below. As always, are you a fan of him? Do you want to see the Jets pick him up? Do you think he is a worthy acquisition to make this team and be this team's really kind of top pairing defender that they need to put with Josh Morrissey? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, if you are a fan of the Winnipeg Jets, but more importantly a fan of hockey regardless of the team that you root for, definitely consider dropping a subscription, as any support you can give the channel is always greatly appreciated. With all that being said, peace, love, and positivity as always, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you in the next video, and bye-bye.